My gosh, look at what Kenny just sent me to have a look at. Seriously considering it, guys. Seriously considering it. Look at that. Look at that bezel, that faded bezel, all these blues, this combination of blues. 37 millimeters, I believe, too. And thin, super thin, because, manual wind. Kenny, what are you doing sending me these pictures? I'm going to be a broke man. Omega, just when I thought I was out, they always pull me back in. Anyway, guys, let's start the show. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today, a slightly different video. I'm going to be talking about this piece, and I'm not going to do wristwatch check just yet because I'm wearing the piece, and I've probably already given it away. But this latest acquisition was actually intended for a completely different series of videos that I'm working on about kind of hidden gems. Especially on the used market and especially on eBay. I love the thrill of the hunt. I love finding little bargains. It's a great way to learn. Sometimes it can be an expensive mistake, but I think the fun aspect of it and the learning is what ultimately entices me to keep doing it. So I had no intention of making this video. However, this is such an interesting piece, the story behind it, and also what it represents, that I think it warrants its own video. A few months ago, if you recall, I reviewed the Omega Speedmaster 1957, part of that trilogy that came out. When was it? Last year? This year? I can't remember. It's all starting to be a big blur. And I loved it. One of my favorites, though, of the trilogy is the Railmaster. When I was looking to buy my Explorer, which has become my favorite watch, if you've followed the channel, I was very close to considering almost pulling the trigger on a Railmaster. I love the simplicity of it. It's very stylistically similar. It's a wonderful kind of tool, do-it-all watch. There's an honesty, there's a kind of timeless classic, and it's so underrated in the trilogy. I mean, it's difficult. You've got two big, giant, iconic watches. It's a little bit in the shadow. But anyway, so it's always subconsciously been in the back of my mind. And then I came across this. On one of my late night watch stalkings, I came across this. I leapt on it. I mean, it was about $300. I did my due diligence. If you've watched my 10 questions you must ask when you're buying online, because it can be, there's always a risk. Let's go back in time and have a look at the unboxing. Then I'll come back and I'll discuss why this is so special. Okay, and here we are with another unboxing. I'll do a quick knife check before we get into it. I'm using the Made in America Old Leaky Ken Onion design. I love this knife. I really love this knife. Let's just take the safety off. Flick it open. There we go. Look at that. So I'll make the first incision and we'll get into it. Right. Drum roll, please. Let's open it up. I already see it. You'll immediately know why I got this. Wow, look at that. Wow. Oh my God. So, I can't remember if it was automatic or manual wind. Let's just have a look. Look at that beautiful patina. Few little dings, but I got this for such a great price. It's a manual wind. Look at the hands. We got that broad arrow hands. Fantastic. There we go. So it's Sanford. There we go. Lord Sanford. Now, I've tried my hardest to do research on this. I couldn't find very much, just some rather tenuous links to some other companies. But as you can see, there's a bit of a chip there, but I got this for an absolute steal. Lovely angular lugs. And immediately you'll notice it looks a little bit like a Railmaster. It looks a little bit like a 1016 Rolex Explorer. A little bit Seamaster-ish as well, 60s Seamaster-ish. So I'm going to give it 24, 48 hours possibly, and report back and see how it wears and works. Oh, talking to see how it wears, let's just pop it on the wrist real quick. The strap's not bad either. It's not a bad strap. Definitely gives me that vintage Explorer feel. And I love the fact there's 12, 3, 6, 9 all together. Really nice, symmetrical, beautiful layout. No date, of course. It's not spoilt by a date. God! Oh my God! I'm really chuffed with that. I'm over the moon. Oh, it's fantastic. Anyway, let's take it back to the studio. Give it 24 to 48 hours, and I'll report back. So let's change perspectives. And I can thankfully report that it's keeping impeccably good time, about plus 12 a day. Which is incredible considering its age. Now, there were a few concerns, which I'll discuss in just a moment. I had to consult with a vintage watch expert friend of mine. What is really interesting is the story behind this brand. Now, I've never heard of Lord Sanford. There was Sir Daniel Sanford, the father of the first Baron of Sanford from Oxford, I think. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with that. So that was a bit of a dead end, and I really had a fun kind of trying to piece together and discover the history of this. I did find two other Lord Sanford watches, both of the 60s. One was an alarm that I found a post online of a watch repairer. A quite interesting alarm, also with a 17 jewel, I think, manual wind, different movement maker. There was also a dress watch I found with a date, however, nothing like this, and that was about it. I couldn't find anything about this brand. I opened up the case, had a look inside, and sure enough, it had a movement by a company called Winton Watch Co. So the movement is a little 17 jewel manual wind operating at 18,000 vibrations an hour with a very healthy 48-hour power reserve. I was kind of delighted because then I had another avenue of investigation. I looked that brand up, and sure enough, actually, they're trademark and they're registered to a company here in New York, of all places. And what they do, they buy in Swiss movements, because this actually has Swiss made on the dial. They provided movements for various companies. They actually made watch cases too, which makes sense because it's signed on the case back Winton. And this was typical of this era. Dress watch I found with the date, that movement was made by Alstar, and they famously, they've been revived since. They famously made the Jaws watch. The diver, I think, was it Richard Dreyfuss? I think wore it in Jaws. So there's a link to that company. The movement inside the alarm watch, that was made by, let me just check, by a company called Hennex. Again, another dead end. What really drew me to this piece was the dial. This Explorer look to it. You guys know I love the 1016. I very nearly bought a 1016, broad arrow hands from the famous Speedmaster, of course. Incredibly slender case because it's manual wind. And that leads me on to another watch. It definitely was inspired by the Ranchero. Now, the Ranchero, if you're not familiar with it, it's a fascinating story. It really was I've seen it described as the fourth musketeer of the trilogy. So it was introduced in 1958, and it was meant to be the Omega's successor to the Railmaster and the Seamaster. But unlike those purpose-driven watches that were designed for very specific professions, or pastimes you could say, the Ranchero was meant to be a do-it-all watch. Omega wanted to make it a little bit more versatile to wear, so what they did, they put it in a slimmer case. They introduced a manual wind movement instead of the automatic as its forebearers. Those large triangle luminescent markers, and of course the broad arrow hands. The Ranchero in my opinion, had it all. And unfortunately, it wasn't the success it was intended to be. The Seamaster completely outsold it, in fact. Omega ceased production of it in the same year, in 1958. They were still selling it in 59. The Ranchero name was also part of the problem. What Omega intended it to do was to evoke or kind of represent freedom, versatility, a sense of adventure, etc. The kind of cowboy image, and also slightly inspired by the Ford Ranchero, which was also introduced in 58, which was designed to be a kind of do-it-all car, so to speak, and that was a hugely successful, spawning Chevrolet and Ford's rivals to also release similar cars. Ranchero in Spanish means ranch hand, and it didn't translate well into the Spanish-speaking markets. On top of it not selling well. Now, it did have a short revival back in 1976 in Belgium, of all places. God knows why, but it was temporary. But what is really interesting about the Ranchero, typical, a bit like the Rolex Space Dweller, if you remember where I talked about this incredibly failed launch by Rolex that has turned into one of the most sought after Explorers. The Ranchero these days are highly desired by collectors. Now back to the Lord Sanford skin diver here. This also is a manual wind, also very slim, with the Explorer dial, Seamaster, Railmaster style cues, and with the broad arrow hands. In fact, the listing actually said poor man's, I think, what was it? Poor man's Ranchero, or something like that, something to that effect. Now, I did have one issue with the watch. I was a little bit apprehensive about the lume, because the lume on the hands is a slightly different color to the lume on the dial. Also, some of the lume has got a little bit messy. I contacted my good friend Kenny at Triad Vintage Watches. If you're not familiar with Kenny, he's one of my top 7, if you recall the video I did, top 7 sellers. I've bought many watches over the years. I've been buying watches from him for donkeys. He's one of the most honourable, honest, expert vintage watch sellers out there. So I contacted Kenny. I thought, what do you think? And he was 95% sure that the lume is original. The case by Winton, already having a history of making cases for other brands, that kind of validated it itself. The Ranchero aesthetic of the dial and the broad arrow hands, that makes sense. So despite the lume on the hands being ever so slightly different color, I have seen it on other watches before. What's interesting, and this is tritium lume, if you shine a UV light on it, they do retain some glow, and it's equal. So again, that makes me think it is original. And it's very difficult to ascertain and to pinpoint if it's genuine or not, because lume and dials, they have so many variables, an almost infinite way of is this a word, patternization? But I don't know, it is now. You can see with tropical dials, for example, the endless ways it can go because of these variants in moisture, exposure to ultraviolet radiation, sunlight, etc., and of course the chemicals it's made out of. It reacts to these different conditions in different ways. If it is relumed on the hands, I'm not too concerned. I honestly, at this point, I paid $300. I'm having a blast with it. It scratches that itch of the Rolex 1016 and Railmaster and the Ranchero, which I never really lusted after. But of course, it's a gorgeous watch because it really is that do-it-all watch, and this shares that. It does have its own little distinct characteristics. Instead of triangle markers, we have trapezium shaped markers. Also the name, it's completely unique. There's nothing else out there like it. A little diamond on the seconds hand. And of course the beautiful angular shape of the lugs. It's so slender. This would look amazing. Just like the Ranchero was intended, the do-it-all watch. It will look amazing on a leather strap, as it does look very functional, tool-tastic, almost military on this olive NATO. I don't intend to sell it on. I don't buy watches to make a profit. I'm not a watch dealer. I buy watches for my own enjoyment, and I am enjoying it. $300, why not? But ultimately, what this watch represents, and what I hope to convey in this video, you don't have to buy new homage watches if you want to scratch that itch. There's tons of vintage watches, tons of more affordable alternatives to some absolute classics. And it is of the same era, so it has that inherent verisimilitude of the watches it's obviously inspired by. Not only that, you get the fun element of trying to puzzle the story together, and in doing so you learn more about watches of that era. So the moral of the story is that you don't have to go with modern homages. There are amazing vintage options that have their own personality and their own story. That's fun to discover. I'm going to leave it there, guys. So, a bit of a off-the-cuff, unintentional video, but I just had to share this little sweet spot in the market. And I'm going to be doing this a hell of a lot more because there are so many gems to discover. Anyway, stay tuned. I'm not going to give too much away. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, found it useful. And as always, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.